Welcome to
Recalculating,
a podcast about spiritual detours,
honest doubt, and the unexpected clarity
that comes from questioning the path you're
filled
on.
with one way to believe,
one way to belong.
one version of God, one direction.
And somewhere along the line, the roadside
Stopped matching the destination.
And I had a choice.
I could keep relying on the map that had me driving in circles or start asking some different questions. Today I want to examine the question, how do you navigate leaving a worldview that goes beyond belief to your own blood? For most of us, religion and family are intertwined. In high-demand religions and remnant-style systems, the specifics of your belief become actual familial bonds. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord this way. When someone begins to question their worldview or doubt their churches, they can often feel like this puts their status within their own families in jeopardy. Sometimes this worry is overblown, but just as often it's underestimated. I read about this fear in online support forums quite a bit. College kids struggling with how to relate to their parents. What can they tell them about what they believe and don't? Kids who have been told what will happen to them if they aren't in church the next weekend and are just counting the days until financial freedom. In that space, it is hard to see what any other side looks like. You can't really be told what it looks like. Glimpses from those that have taken the detour before are all we can really offer, but I have a hell of a glimpse to offer you today. If religious beliefs can intertwine with blood, there are few others who can claim a more pungent mixture than my guest today, Heidi O'Dell. She's a middle school English teacher, a union representative, and the author of an upcoming saga called The Mother Ring, which we will get to in further episodes. I came across her on TikTok almost 3 years ago at this point. She was being vulnerable and honest about theological questions and Adventism in general. Questions I had, but had been afraid to publicly discuss. I realized finally that I wasn't alone. In many ways, the spaces I create exist because of the space that she was creating. But I buried the lead. Heidi's ancestry is as Adventist as it gets. She's the great-great-great-granddaughter of Adventism's co-founder and prophetess, Ellen G. White. Welcome to
recalculating.
Okay, Heidi. So I was doing the math on your ancestry that you sent me of being, you are the great-great-great-granddaughter of Ellen
Correct.
White.
Yes.
Your Adventist history is as Adventist as a history can get. To
Yes.
some extent, yes.
Absolutely.
Your family has been in it as long as, this was the math I was doing. Your
Mhm.
family has been in it as long as my family has been free.
That's
Which,
crazy math.
that's a crazy thing to think about. Like
It
the
is.
church is as core to like a family tie you have as like freedom and Americanism and citizenship is to my being.
Yeah.
Which is not something I necessarily want to like stick on, but there has to be a very different and significantly different and special way you interacted with Seventh-day Adventism growing up, and how you related to it versus even me, who I joined when my parents. Let's see, I was 2. I don't
Okay.
remember not being an Adventist, but it was new to them. Like they're learning something new, whereas
Mm-hmm.
you are, it's epigenetic, like in your DNA to be an Adventist. Do you have like an early memory that tied what Adventism is to who you were? Huge lead up to that question.
That is a big question. And I don't know. I can't think of one memory that truly just embodies my experience with Adventism. Like how, like early on, so my memories go back to when I'm 18 months old. I can verify that's like my own memory, not like from pictures or anything, but with family, they were like, how do you remember that? You were only 18. And I was like, no, I very much remember that.
Yeah.
I feel almost like also when I was like the memory keeper of my family. Like I was very aware and wanting to remember everything that was happening. But at the same time, my memory was attacked very early on as well. And I felt like I was specifically told to forget certain things. But so I
Mm,
was like, I have this juxtaposition of memories of like things that I worked really hard to keep and then things that I worked really hard to forget. So that my
sure.
mind has been completely like, this is a big part of my journey too, is just my memories within myself, the church, my family, all of that. But so like I think, my earliest memories that embody the church is just this. I wanted to wear a purple sweatsuit one time, just like I think it was just to my birthday party, not even to church. It was just
Mm,
like my third birthday party. I wanted to wear this purple sweatsuit that my aunt had made me. I loved it so much, and we spent my entire birthday party before, like day before. The party was late because of it. I threw the biggest fit because I was like, I don't want to wear a pink frilly dress, but they wanted me to wear a pink frilly dress, and I was like, not what I wanted. But it was just like this. My body was a stage always of
mm,
like for them. Like I had to be this perfect image of this perfect little girl who was in their perfect pink dresses and prim and proper and didn't have questions or didn't want to dig in the dirt and play with the bugs, but I needed to be in my church dress with my perfect hair, my perfect outfit, my perfect shoes, and sit there perfectly. Like that was, I think, the hardest part was me always trying to be myself, and the church telling me who you are, or not just the church, but my family
yeah.
and the church. They were like all the same to me. Just telling me who you are inherently is wrong. And we have to beat the wild girl out of you. Like the true who you are doesn't fit, doesn't match us. And they always
Oh,
told me,
wow.
like, we're so worried about you, Heidi. Like, we didn't know that you would, really make it. And I had to deny myself, like who I was my entire life. I had to completely abandon me to fit into their mold and be accepted by them. Yeah, I
So
don't know if that's like a good
it was
answer to that
it was
question.
always kind of a restrictive relationship then?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
always.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Because I can see how that. Hmm. Was your dad a pastor?
Okay, so no, my dad was a lawyer
Okay.
and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. But my dad had mental health issues and my mom had a brain injury she sustained when she was 13. So it was like a known injury when my parents got together.
Hmm.
In fact, and my dad's mental health was hidden from my mother intentionally so that they would get married and could create this perfect nuclear family and hide the disability, hide the mental illness in this family. Like if they could get married and have a family, then they could take care of each other and the family wouldn't have to worry about them. And then we were the product of that. And it was just hell. It was hell because they didn't
Yeah.
actually care about us, love us. It was just all about image for the family. Um,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I
and
didn't. Wow. Because that would, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that's why I asked about the pastor thing, because it
well, so my
sounds like a
grandfather was a pastor.
PK. Okay.
Right. I
Okay.
felt like a pastor's kid because I was almost raised by my grandparents more than my parents, especially after they divorced when I was 6. But my dad, when I mentioned the mental illness, because he was definitely under spiritual psychosis. Like he was obsessed with the religion and
Mm,
perfectionism and embodying all of the rules. It was a very restrictive upbringing up until my parents divorced. But my parents divorced when I was like 6. Um, and then after that, there was a lot of chaos. It was like half restricted upbringing and then half chaos, just utter chaos.
yeah. Wow,
Um,
that's interesting. Because what's funny is
oh,
I didn't necessarily, mm, I didn't have the pressure, I don't feel like, applied to me as much to be the perfect child, so
oh.
much as I wanted to be. Like, I don't think anyone expected it, but it was a thing I aspired to. So
Mm.
even though it was restrictive and stripping me of a lot of who I really was, like I'm having to shape myself into this thing,
Uh-huh.
I was doing it on purpose to some extent. Like I can't, like I have to own a lot of what I did with it, even though I'm a little kid being raised up in it. But
Mhm.
to have that added aspect of like you're effectively royalty, like you're the ultimate PK of this line of humans
Yes, I mean
needs
that's
to
what it.
continue being this perfect example for this whole not generation, denomination around the world. Like
Yeah,
that's crazy pressure.
yeah. My dad definitely put that pressure on us hardcore from the beginning.
Yeah.
It really mattered to him. We knew who we were. we would not
Yeah.
we could not forget who we were, and we needed to present ourselves as such wherever we went in our world, which was always Adventist world, right?
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pressure was intense.
So did you have the inside the bubble experience being raised? Were you in Adventist schools and an Adventist
Yeah, so
community?
it's interesting. I guess they did give me a choice when I started first grade. I was homeschooled for kindergarten with my mom. And then they were like, you can go to the Jewish school right next to the Adventist school, or you can go to the Adventist school where your sister is and where we helped build and where, your family is. I remember them giving me this choice and going, there's really no choice here, is
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Like, of
Yeah.
course I have to go to the Adventist school. If I choose wrong, like, I know what's going to happen. I will disappoint them. um, and that was very clear. So, yeah, I was definitely in the Adventist school system. And then that became, once my parents divorced, like a point of like, my dad, I was just actually reading through a bunch of the documents. I have, hold on, I'll show you. You can't see it if you're listening, but I brought like tons of documents.
Wow.
And this is just one stack. This is like the older history of my family. This is
Oh
like
wow.
the Henry White back to like the 1920s and early 1910s.
Oh
Um,
wow.
but I have all of my parents' divorce record too, and I was just recently going through that, and he was yeah insisted that I attend the Adventist school system. But then I felt like I chose it too, like it was my world. I didn't want to leave it. I think my mom did pull me out of an Adventist school in fourth grade because we couldn't afford it. She was a single mom at the time, and there was just lots of difficulties. But then I struggled being in public school at that point. I felt like I was going to hell being in a public school. I
Mm.
I I could not. Um, Mesh with that system because of my upbringing and what I had been fed. And so
Yeah.
my family did pull me out, and my extended family continued to help me stay in Adventist schools. And then, I mean, like I worked my butt off. I could have left in middle school. I mean, after middle school, going to high school, there was like a big fight. Like high school is expensive, especially at, academies. They're
Hmm.
not cheap. And but I chose to work and pay most of everything that I worked to go to academy. And yeah, that was my choice. I do like look back and go, well, I was a product of the indoctrination, and that's okay. We say we had a choice, but like, I don't know. Did we? we
Yeah.
did.
No,
We
that's
did. But that's how my body interpreted it. Like, I felt like I needed to be part of that system to be accepted. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a constant, almost unknowing search for acceptance. Like you don't know that's what you're trying to keep a hold of. You just know certain choices you can lose it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not even really that much of a tangible thing. Like you don't know what you're afraid of losing. You're just afraid of losing it.
Yeah. Oh, I was deeply afraid of losing it. Plus, like the Adventist system was more of a structured family for me than my nuclear family. So
Mm,
it felt like if I lost that, then I would lose everything.
right.
Um, and and I mean, to some extent, that's not wrong, because that kind of almost what would have been what had happened to me when I did leave the Adventist system, except for, I got married and I have my nuclear family and I have a couple of friends now. But it was really hard, even as a 37-year-old woman. I can't remember. I think it was 37. when I left the church to leave because it had become my whole, I mean, it was family and work
Yeah.
and extended support system and everything.
Since it was so tied into everything, um, was it complicated to notice what was different or unique about the Adventist system, or was that always up front? Was our, peculiar and set apartness always up front, or was it just like this is what we do as a family?
I think it was so normalized for me that I didn't realize how different it was until maybe college,
Yeah,
maybe late high school.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that was, I mean, growing up, it was just, that's who we are. I mean, this is life. I was hard to, I mean, like I knew about the world outside of us because obviously there's TV and movies and we're in the world, but no, I don't know.
I don't think I understood how many like assumptions I carried about everyone else uh,
Mm-hmm.
from the system until, like you were saying, like later years of high school and definitely in college, when I would bump into people that, like, I had these good friends in college that were these like really kind of country guys, but they were from this town that used a lot of slang. So they talked like rappers, but they looked like cowboys. So it was this weird combination of things. And but they would talk about, they'd go in their room with a bottle of whiskey and talk about like the book of Romans and just like Paul's writing style. And they had like all of these deep theological thoughts that I didn't think people that weren't in the truth, in quotes,
Mm-hmm.
could have. I'm like, like
Oh,
they were
uh-huh.
like vastly deeper than things I had conceived. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like you're not so there shouldn't be light in you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here sober. You guys are hammered. And you sound like these like Houston slowed down rappers, and you are telling me things I have never heard in my own church system that I lived in,
Uh-huh.
days and days out of the week. Or I tell this story every now and again, like my girlfriend going from high school into college, we dated a year before she told me she was an atheist.
Hmm.
And I don't know how it didn't come up. I'd
Right.
taken her to church. We talked about a bunch of stuff. And I remember I was late getting back to campus because it was a residential high school. And so I was speeding on the highway and a guy cut me off.
Mm-mm.
And I was mad about that, but then a cop pulled out and gave him a ticket. So when I got back to campus, I said I got saved on the way back to school this weekend. And she thought I meant like I gave my heart to Jesus, not I dodged getting a ticket. And I was like, well, that's a weird thing for you to think. Like, we've been to church with me and stuff. And she was like, yeah, I just didn't ever want to bring this up. And we had this conversation where she was like, um, in as much as you can imagine hoping to convince me someday to believe what you believe, I have just as much belief in myself I can convince you of what I believe.
Ooh.
Um, and so it became this thing of like, oh, like you're waiting for me to stop believing. And I'm now realizing I was trying to convince her to be an Adventist from whatever I thought she was. And she was like,
Right.
oh, yeah, I'm not interested in this at all. Um, but she was also like the kindest, most loving human I had ever met,
Mm.
to that point. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense either. Like you have no access to what love is.
Right.
How are we holding these? Like there were a ton of these little cracks
Mm-hmm.
in all the things that I had never questioned, but I
Mm.
also had never put myself in a position to have to. And it was
Mm.
like that began to feel like what they were telling me to protect myself from
Mm-hmm.
was was not like any kind of temptation. It was literally just access to other people. Like,
Yep.
don't humanize the other belief systems and the other people that we have cut out without ever acknowledging we were kind of dehumanizing people
Oh,
with how
complete.
we talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never even said that before. Like, me using dehumanization language with how we talked about even first day churches has never occurred to me before to this conversation.
Really,
but
wow. Yeah, the
but
other thing that we did and that we were taught to do
yeah,
includes that deep dehumanization that, I mean, it's part of that whole, like, we're the remnant. We've got the truth. We are special and set apart. That means everybody else isn't. And then, yeah, they're not as human as you are, or
no,
like as embodied in your spiritual humanity, which was the pinnacle of being human, right? Like anyone that wasn't spiritual was, ooh, almost like they were, working with the devil.
there really wasn't a difference.
Yeah, there
Like,
wasn't.
they were like they were like the people in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
They were fine and safe right now, but at any point in time, an agent could hop in them, and now you're in battle with something you can't beat. And
Yeah.
like, that was literally how I was walking through the world, unknowingly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew I'm technically out here, hopefully, to convert people, to spread the gospel, or all that. But like, everyone was also a threat. Like, it's your
It's
your your friendships are at arm's length, because it's like, I can only let you in so far until you agree to be in my club.
yeah. But it's interesting as I'm thinking and I'm listening, like there were so many cracks in my belief system that I just completely blazed over. Like I'm looking
Yeah,
back, I'm like, there were cracks from when I was little.
yeah,
Um, and I kept ignoring the cracks. I kept ignoring the things. I had exposure, I had questions, I had my doubts, but the need to be part of that community, that family that was mine, like I think that for me made me do things and deny myself and my truth and what I was seeing and hearing in other people. It was just like this like wall that I put up to protect myself from what I could lose if I really let those cracks become,
yeah, yeah. If you pay attention to any of them for too long,
right.
that's too big a risk.
Oh yeah. Way too big of it.
Um,
Right turn
what
ahead.
does Just because I don't want to dwell in the past too much, what
Mm-hmm.
does spirituality look like as you're starting to leave that system? Like, is it
Mm.
a complete walk away from everything, or were you on a search for another church home, another place that felt familiar?
Good
What was
question.
your goal?
We were talking about there's been cracks for a long time. There, the story I could get, it's a book. Like I have like a 3-part memoir that I could put out and explain all of that in deep detail.
Sure.
But my final breaking point came when I was a Seventh day Adventist teacher in the system and decided to become a surrogate. I was a single mom, and there was no way I could support myself on my own while dealing with the financial and judicial abuse that my ex was also putting me through at the same time. And I was trying to find any other way, side hustle or something I could do to provide more income for myself so I could pay my bills and continue sending my kids to the school that I was teaching at. So like
Mm.
this is so much money I'm paying and I can barely afford, anything because I'm choosing to send my kids here and then I'm also fighting this battle here and this battle there. And then I decided to become a surrogate. Becoming a mother was one of the things that made me the happiest in life. Pregnancy was fairly easy for me, so was delivery, and it just was like this thing that was like, oh, this is the perfect fit. I can give life to another human, help another family, create their dream, their not not just a dream, but like give life to this family that I feel like is the gift that we as humans, it's like the ultimate gift, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I did talk to my boss about it, and she totally approved it, and things seemed fine. But then there was a lot of pushback, and not just from the church, but from the community. Like,
On the idea of surrogacy?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Really?
My kids started coming home telling me, "Mom, like my friends say that you're not a true Christian. That like you're being bad doing this, that this is wrong." I was just shaken to my core.
Wow.
Like, I'm going, what? What do you mean? Like, this feels like what I'm doing is like the ultimate act of Christianity. And here are the people in my community that I thought were my coworkers and friends and supported me. No, these people are all talking behind my back, all like creating this negative dark hole around this issue. Not this issue, but like me and this, like the pregnancy and the joy that I had with it. It broke me. I mean, there's details I can't even go into about it even here now, because of how bad it got. But that situation with the church and my surrogacy absolutely fundamentally broke me with the church. It was a system that
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard to be accepted by, and to see like I have this deep love. See me. Yes, I've messed up in my life. Yes, I'm not perfect. Yes, my life is messy. I'm a wild woman, but my heart has always been for love and for connection and for helping others. And in a system where that's really, I mean, like it's preached at you that that's what it's all about. But then at the core of the system, that's not really what it's about. It's about appearances. It's about control. It's about you have to look this way and do this thing. And if you don't fit our image, then we don't want to look at your heart. We don't care about that.
Man, this is fascinating. It didn't even compute that that was the issue. I'm like, obviously, what would be wrong with certain, like you said, it is the embodiment of a loving sacrifice, right? But it's looked at negatively. But it's also the that has to feel like the culmination of everything you've been taught to believe. Like
Right.
this is the kind of love you show. And
Right.
so like you're putting these absolute core beliefs into action, and then the people that have helped instill them are looking at them like something's wrong with it. Like that amount of dissonance.
Mm-hmm. It
Oh,
was
like
crazy.
I can feel that shock, like the it not making sense for the backlash, like just the what do you even do.
Right.
That's
And then to be
fascinating.
very, very clear, I knew that there was huge problems in the system. I'd been trying to, I don't know, make changes from within. I thought,
Yeah.
there's no way the church is going to get better if everyone that has a good heart and really wants to make it better leaves. And it was my birthright, right? Like the church was my history. It wasn't just something that I stepped into and it was a belief that my parents gave me, but it was in my blood. So I thought, yeah, change it from within. Like you can do it, you can do it. And then like with that situation, it became very clear there's no changing the system from within. The system is what it is. It doesn't care that you're an ancestor or a descendant of Ellen White. It doesn't care that your heart is here to help people and to make the system better for everybody. It doesn't care about you because I threatened the image of the system so
Mhm.
much that now I became collateral damage. I mean, like, my God, Will, I got sat down, got put into a meeting where parents got to tell me how they felt about my surrogacy alone, just me, 30 weeks pregnant, 31 weeks pregnant. And they were like, parents were like, I can't believe you didn't let us vote on what you did with your body. Like they really thought that
Wow.
they could decide what I did with my body. Like, how dare I do this edgy thing in their community that forced them to have these difficult conversations with their children? Um,
Wow.
and they put all of that negativity, all of that angst, all of that fear, all of that anger onto me. And it's no surprise that about a week later, I went into early labor and was, ended up delivering my Suro child at 34 weeks pregnant. I went into early labor at 32, and I had to keep me on bed rest for 2 weeks. And in that 2 week period, man, like it was relentless. The pressure I got during that time. No love, just how much I caused harm by being in the hospital at the end of the school year.
Jeez.
So
I find that so common that the breaking point is it's never disbelief. Like it's never like, hey, I was doing this and I never held up really tight and I just couldn't do it anymore, so I gave it
mhm,
up. It's always like I was embodying what I was taught, and the people that taught it to me let me know it was bullshit. Like
yeah,
that, and that's always the breaking point. It's like, this is the thing we should be doing, and it's like, no, 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 we shouldn't do that. It's like,
yeah,
what? Like, of course we should. And it's like, how'd you even get that crazy idea? It's like, from you. Like, this is what we've been talking about.
and I told you that
Oh my goodness.
this whole
My
like
wife was,
love thing, like you taught me that.
yeah, my wife was talking about this morning. I had said something about uh, being pushed toward action and
Mm-hmm.
what that meant in the Adventist church. And I had said something that triggered with her, where she was like, yeah, action never really means being the hands and the feet. It means like doing work on yourself, like this inner work to be more ready or presentable or
Mm-hmm.
prepared for the whatever. But it
Mm-hmm.
was very rarely like, go feed the hungry. There were programs you could do that, but like, we very rarely left a sermon thinking, man, or a weekly service thinking, we feel empowered to go bring the kingdom to the world this week. But oof, how do I get a little bit better so next week I don't feel like I'm probably still going to hell when he's done with this altar call? Like, it was, I
Yeah.
was like, we work on ourselves a lot for people that are supposed to be dealing with the problems in the world. I thought we are really concerned with ourselves a
Yeah.
lot.
But you say like we did all the work on ourselves, but they weren't actually doing the work on themselves because
I agree. Yeah.
there was a lot of like Bible study, rereading the Bible, and
Hmm.
I also inherited a lot of my grandmother's journals. I mean, man, she would spend so much time journaling. She would spend so much time in study and prayer and all these. But actually, my grandmother, bless her, she was the hands and the feet of Jesus in our community too. Like she went out to shut-ins were her thing. People who couldn't go to
Mm-hmm.
church, she would bring the sermon from that week to them and bring food or go and help the people who couldn't make it to church. Now it was all like in the church. It wasn't outside of the church system, but like she embodied action with love. And but then when I thought like I'm gonna read these journals, I'm gonna like know my grandmother's heart. But no, like these journals were all just there's no emotion, there's no depth, there's no like grappling with her beliefs, there was no like anything other than just every day a list of what she did, what happened. And that shocked me because it's so different than my journals growing up or my journals now, where I'm writing and I'm like grappling with things and I'm struggling with what I'm feeling, I'm like questioning stuff. There was like no question for her. It was just devotion. And yeah, that didn't work out so well for her because there was a lot of big problems that she just glazed over with. Just read the Bible or just do this. And anyways,
Yeah.
I think I'm getting sidetracked off of my grandma's story there. But what was your actual question? What am
No,
I trying?
it was just kind of just that feeling of trying to live out the thing
Oh, live
and
out the thing and the
being
work,
pushed
right?
away.
Yeah, sometimes the work was just like praying and doing good things for other people, but not actually healing the deep wounds that are inside that cause harm to other people in your daily life, right?
Oh, there's
Like
I've there's
that.
very little of that. There's very little of like real deep personal work. It's more like try not to cuss the person off that cut you off in traffic. It's not because that was always one of those things where I'm like we kept talking about how staying in the truth and studying these things will change you over time. And I'm like, well, why is the racist guy at church still racist? Like, I
Seriously,
don't understand.
that's the thing. My grandma was fully racist too, and it was like this dichotomy, not dichotomy. It was this like juxtaposition of these two things. Like, how can you have so much hatred in your heart toward other races, and yet like say that it's all about love? Like,
Yeah.
what
Or
about
like,
love? What about love for all people?
why is God so concerned with helping you make sure the chores are done before sunset
Oh
on
yeah,
Friday? But dear God, you cannot stand immigrants. Like, like that just, I don't understand.
such a huge disconnection there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's
The
so strange.
dissonance, that was, yeah, that was a really hard part. A big crack, a big crack in the system. Very
It's
long time.
it's weird when you start, for me, I'll speak for me,
Mhm.
to start seeing them and then, or I guess not start seeing them, start to admit you see the cracks and the
Mhm.
dissonance.
That's it.
And then there is a bit of a waterfall moment that
Hmm.
I had. Like my wife was raised Methodist
Hmm.
and didn't have like they didn't have a lot of certainty about things. Like
Hmm.
that just wasn't a part of their brand. Um, and so when she converted to Adventism when she was in getting her master's, we had talked about it a lot, but she just understood the Sabbath stuff. She's like, I guess that makes sense to me.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of the other things, the deeper doctrine, she just didn't mention what her doubts or questions might have been. Um,
Mm.
and so then when I start asking her random questions, because I don't know where she's at when I start letting my crack show. And so
Hmm.
I remember asking her stuff about the investigative judgment and the sanctuary doctrine.
Hmm.
And she goes, "Oh yeah, I never believed that stuff anyway."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah, not really." And I said, "Well, here's my question about it." And I would throw her a question and she'd go, "That was the very first thing I asked you about it. And you told me with absolutely no doubt in your mind an answer. It's hilarious to me that you are now coming to me asking me this question.
That's
Because
great.
10 years ago,
Uh-huh.
you would have preached me a sermon on
About,
this. And now
right?
you're like, you don't even remember doing that.
Mm-mm.
And now can't, and I was like, I really asked you. She was like, yeah, everything we've been talking about the last couple of days. She was
Huh.
like, our questions, I came to you that you just kind of dismissed.
You just weren't ready for it yet because you were, it's, we all go through those journeys too. As you're
Well, and
talking,
I
mhm.
needed her to believe it
Yeah,
because we were gonna get married. Like I couldn't show anything.
no, you couldn't. The cracks were too scary to acknowledge at all. So, no, I get it. I get it completely. So, there was another story I wanted to tell you about. One of my cracks, very similar to yours. It was interesting, actually. The investigative judgment was a big question of mine when I learned about it in college. I did ask about it, and I remember having like a big discussion with my professor about it. And I think he gave me a good enough answer that it was like, okay, like, I guess so.
Yeah.
Um, but then I began writing a book called The Prophet's Companion. I thought I was going to write this Adventist generational love story, not just love story, but like it was going to be a generational story of like my family, starting with May Lacey and Willie White's love story, because those are my direct ancestors.
Hmm.
And I ended up playing May Lacey, my great great grandmother, at a white family reunion event at Monterey Bay Academy. In, like, I think it was the year 2000. My grandmother put on this big production. Her mother, my great grandmother, wrote this play about the romance between Willie White and May Lacey. I think she was writing a book about it, and at first wrote a play, and then so we, all the family members, we got a role and we practiced it, and we came to the reunion, and then we did the play. It was pretty epic, honestly, and pretty cringe now looking back. I have the whole video. It's hilarious. I watch it. I'm just like, wow, this is like peak Seventh Day Adventist memories. Anyways,
Hmm.
so I have that story in my head for a long time. And then I began living with my grandmother and taking care of her. And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. I have all of like this information, like straight from my grandmother, that she remembers certain stories. I can write our family story. And it was like, also I did want it to kind of prove Adventism. Like, I really wanted it
Sure.
to bring people into the church. I thought the Pacific Press would publish it. I was so committed to this project because it was going to be a generational one. It was like one book with, my great great grandparents, and then all the way down to me and my story. Um, but then as I'm researching this book, I went to the Adventist World Headquarters. I went to Loma Linda Library. I went to Andrews University Libraries. And I spent days in each of those places going into the history and getting primary sources to prove everything. Not just prove everything. I wasn't about proving. It was to create the most accurate story possible. I wanted to not just come from my own memory, but to really portray the truth of the history of our church and the people and how they lived it and embodied their beliefs and created our church, while also, still living their lives and having family and everything that I know, from our family history. But I ended up proving to myself that Ellen White could not possibly be a prophet because of the things that I uncovered and how so many people were just like, yeah, these stories were made up. Like, there was a lot of like things that people think are prophecies, but yeah, the church really embellished those. And we know that. Like, we did
Yeah.
that to bring more people in, but it was always used. I mean, it was always talked about in this way that it's fine because it's for Jesus. We're bringing more people into the church because, but for Jesus, to help them. The lie is okay. Like, the lie is not okay. Are
Yeah.
you freaking kidding me? How can you have this cognitive dissonance of, yeah, we do understand that this story wasn't totally accurate. We embellished it. We made it seem like she was a prophet more so than she really was. But and there's so much more to that. There's so much more to
Sure.
all the things that they did. But that cracked me open when I talked to my husband about it at the time. My husband at the time, he shut me down. It's like, I don't want to hear. Don't talk to me about it. I don't want
Yeah.
to. Like, it was too big and too hard to face. So I stuffed it down.
Hmm.
It was like, okay, I can't talk to him about it. And I was still of that mindset that, like, I didn't want to get divorced. My parents got divorced and my childhood was chaos. And I thought I was going to do something different. And so I'm going to be a better wife. Like, really, no, that was not my path. But yeah, so once I left the system that I was trying to help, I'm like, here's this system that, yeah, it's problems. I knew that Ellen White wasn't a true prophet. I knew that there were huge issues there with that. But I was okay in my little world because Ellen White wasn't propped up as um, a prophet. Like, we had our Seventh Day Adventism without her leading it so much for like I want to say like the last 6 years of my time within the church. She was really just ignored. And that was okay for me. It made it okay because, yeah, I could believe in the Sabbath. I could believe in Jesus. I could believe in all of those things, but not in Ellen White having to be a prophet. So when I fully left the church, um, I left everything but Jesus at first. It was like, I'm not going to lose Jesus
Hmm.
because I believe in Jesus. No one's going to take that from me. And then I went on TikTok and started deconstructing Seventh-day Adventism and sharing that with people, and became part of a community of deconstructors and exposed to other people leaving the church. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't even believe in Jesus anymore. Not the way the church, at least, or the Bible has portrayed Jesus. I don't believe that Jesus is a God personally anymore. But that was a really hard loss for me. Like, it was a hard loss, and it really took, I don't know, a long time to grapple with the fact that this being that I've had this relationship with maybe isn't the best being. In fact, so much so that, like, I've come full circle and I have a completely different spirituality now. But that's a different question that you were getting to, that I pulled you back to the break.
Yeah,
So
I think we might be there.
we might be there.
Recalculating.
Tune back in next week for more of this conversation with Heidi O'Dell. This is Recalculating.